I'm pumped to be here again, as usual. Today's topic is, I like to say it's how to become a master asker, but it's learning the art of asking to get business, to get paid. We've got to ask and ask and ask. And I venture to say that one of the number one reasons why you don't get paid as a coach, why you don't get results, is because you're not asking. And today we're going to talk about that, dive into that a little bit and go from there. Before I get rolling, which we're rolling already, right? We come out of this gate rolling. That's how we roll. I record all of these Tuesday live shows and I put them on my university at sellingcoaching.com. So check out my university, a lot of great resources, and a great initial resource to get you started is right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com. You'll see a resource where I actually you can get my dog, believe it or not. Joking. But anyways, that's to get your attention. It is launching your full-time coaching business, your first 3 vital steps. So if you enter your name and email, you'll get full access to that immediately. It's an audio training course. It's a great first step for you to get going. Even if you've been going, it's a great way to recheck yourself. A lot of great resources on there. Also right on the homepage or any page at sellingcoaching.com at the top, you have an invitation to my private Facebook group. And we've got some great things always going on in there right now. We've got a 91-day visibility challenge, challenging you to create videos over 91 days. And maybe you do 30 of them, maybe you do 3 of them, whatever works for you. It's self-defined. It's allowing you to get more exposure, get your message out there to more people. So guess what? You have more opportunities to create conversations. And from those conversations can come the ask. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today is the ask. So there's the saying out there, ask and you shall receive, right? And in business, I don't know if it's exactly the same because just because we're asking doesn't mean we're going to receive. However, if we never ask, we're certainly never going to receive. And so we're going to talk about that because it's not just about asking. Here's what I've learned is we can't just, okay, Jeff, great. And maybe you're just like, you're one of those people that like, I'm not going to be bashful. Wow, I never thought of that. You've thought of it, but you know. So you're going to go out there and you're going to start asking. It's not just about blatantly asking. It's, well, first off, we got to start to understand what are we asking for? And secondly, we've got to start to understand the art of asking because it's not just, like this utilitarian, just, oh, we're going to just ask for whatever we want. There's a way and a craft of asking for that. And that's how we'll kind of look into it a little bit. So first off, we got to start to think about this is, when it comes for asking, let's start from the networking side, general networking, and then we can kind of wrap up with kind of the client ask. So there's the 2 aspects that I'll cover today is this networking side and then the client aspect, asking to get clients once we've gone through networking. So first off, we got to get more exposure. We've got to build an audience. And how do we build an audience? It's speaking our message, and we've got to speak our message consistently and frequently. How frequently? How about this? Start once a week. If you're doing once a week and you have the bandwidth and you've done it consistently, add in a second day, whatever. Like I do these Tuesday live shows. I've been doing these Tuesday live shows every single Tuesday, barring like a holiday or a random, vacation, which they don't come that, often because I take them all the time. It's not like I'm taking weeks off at a time. So I've been doing this consistently. I don't even know how long now, for 4 years plus, right? So, and prior to doing this niche with helping coaches transition to full-time business, I was doing weekly shows just in a different format to a different audience. So I've been doing them for 15 years. That's the reality of that. But you've got to have a consistent message. That's the number one thing you got to be doing there. And so you got to be getting out there. I don't care if it's online like this or if it's face-to-face speaking engagements. We've got to be getting out there and sharing our message. So that's one thing that we got to start doing. But within that, we've got to start thinking about how do I get more exposure? So especially those of you that are going to networking events, meet and greet, shaking hands, talking to people, things like that, you've got to know what you're asking for. And a lot of why I'm presenting this today is a lot of what I'm teaching you here is not the specific piece because I can't do that for you, but when I'm working one-on-one with my mentor coaching clients or if I'm doing group mentoring, where I'm really honing in and helping them with specifically is the approach. How do we ask for business, right? So there's a refinement of it that unfortunately I can't get into here because it's for you, but I can go over some of the general concepts of it so you can get a better idea where you can go with it. But my client emailed me last week and he sent a voice memo in it. And I listened to him. We had a great session last week, and he sent me, he's like, dude, he's like, we talked about asking. And he's like, I went out and I had 3 networking events. And he's like, I was asking for business. I was asking for, who can help me spread my message more? Who can direct me? Who's looking for seminar presenters? Who's doing speaking engagements where they're looking for presenters? And he's like, he connected with 3 people who connected him with 3 other people who now he has a meeting with them and seeing how it's going to go. And that led to meeting with somebody else who was interested in his services. And then as a result of that, he asked for business and he had a $5,000 sale for a 6-month package that he's offering, right? So this stuff works. And that's just one example. And that's when I was thinking of a topic this week. I'm thinking, oh, this is great to go over, right? So as we're getting out there, those networking events, and that's why I kind of went into that avenue right there, is what we got to start doing is we got to think about who can help us, not as a client, right? We're not looking for clients when we're out there. What we're looking for are speaking engagements. We've got to speak our message. That's why I was going over, I don't care how you speak it, but you've got to be doing something on a weekly basis. So we got to get out there and find more speaking engagements. So we've got to find who has a spot, right? Who has a place where I can speak, right? Who's looking for presenters, who's having events or who does events on a regular basis that's looking for presenters. And then also who's open to developing relationships with presenters, with speakers. That's what you are. You are a speaker. I don't care if you don't think you are. I don't care if it frightens you to death and you're like, ooh, the big gulp, so to speak. You're a presenter. You've got to speak your message. That's how you market yourself and get yourself out there. So when you're out there, those are the 3 types of categories that you're looking for. So when you're meeting with people and they say, what do you do? Right? You can say you're a coach or a life coach, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? So I always used to say this I'm 100% virtual right now, but for the first 10, 12 years of my business, that's all I did was face-to-face, right? So no matter where you are, you're not a coach. You could say, I own a seminar and coaching company, and I help who with what specifically. That's where you fill in your niche headline. And then from there, that's where you can go into, and I'm looking to develop relationships with individuals and organizations who are either having events or open to having a speaker come in and speak to their people. And then that's where we spin it around and we ask them, right? So number one, we've got to be clear on our message and what we're doing, and when we're out there, networking, especially face-to-face, we've got to be clear as I want speaking engagements. I am passionate about my message, which is X. I help who with what specifically, and I'm passionate about this. And I want to get out there and I want to speak my message to more people where it's relevant. Who do you know? Who's looking for presenters? Who has a space where I could potentially host an event, right? So those are some of the ways we can ask. But we can say is, I own a seminar coaching company and I speak around the topics of helping who with what specifically. And I'm looking for people or organizations who are open to developing relationships with speakers or already having speaking engagements, and they're looking to have speakers come in. Who do you know that might be able to help? Remember, that's where I want to ask an open-ended question. I don't want to ask a closed-ended questions like, do you know anybody? Yes or no? Because most people are like, I don't think so. But it's like, who do you know? And another ask we want to go into is help. I want to ask for help. I know you are a successful businessman, woman. You're respected in the community. Even if I don't know that person, I've heard a lot of good things about you. I mean, don't lie. If you know the person, if you do some research on a person before you talk to them, or I see you have a very successful business. I would imagine you're well connected to the community. It looks like how long you've been in business for? 20 years. Wow. Good for you. Congratulations. You know what? You don't stay in business for 20 years without being a sharp businessman, businesswoman. With that being said, maybe I can ask for some of your help. I've just launched my business. I've only been in business for a couple of years now, maybe, right? And you say, I'm just wondering what help or advice you'd give me. I own a seminar and coaching company where I help who with what specifically. I'm looking to get out there and speak my message. And what help could you give me? What ideas do you have? If this were your business, who would you call? Who would you contact in order to get yourself out there more, right? These are the things I'm starting to ask. Now, this is on the client side, like actually getting the client side. This is like, how can I get more exposure side, right? We've got to ask for the events. You've got to ask for the connections. Who do you know? And you're just going straight in directly and asking. But if you notice, you're putting a framework around it. That's comes from your why, which is passion, right? Because each and every one of you are doing your coaching business because you're passionate about what you're doing and who you're helping, even if you don't quite know who that is quite yet. And even if you're somewhat general in terms of getting out in the marketplace right now, like, oh, I help everyone do everything and get better and lead a happy and fulfilled life, right? That's okay. Don't not get out there and start asking for people for events and stuff like that just because you haven't figured it out yet. Take some time and figure it out. But if you're still not getting anywhere, then you still got to get out there and start asking, right? But you've got to start that framework around, I have a seminar coaching company. I'm looking to spread my message. Leverage off of your passion, leverage off of your enthusiasm and your excitement. People like that stuff. A lot of my clients, were appropriate, if they're marketing face-to-face and they're doing a lot of seminars and events, I say, hey, have you ever thought of writing a book? Right now, I think it's 7 or 8 clients. I haven't kind of specifically, but right now I'm working with 7 or 8 clients to help them write a book, because that's another way of having a great approach is when you've got a book, even before you have a book. Hey, listen, I'm publishing my first book. I have a seminar and coaching company. I'm in the process of publishing my first book, or I've just published my first book, or I authored my first book. This is my approach when I published my first book back in 2009. It's what I did. This is how I got in places, when I authored my first book, or I'm authoring it, it's due out late summer or whenever it's due out. And I help who with what specifically, or the working title is this, and I'm talking around topics of this. And I'm looking to set up some speaking engagements for my book tour. Call it a book tour, right? But again, this is just another angle of an approach, right? So you got to think about your business. I mean, obviously, when I'm mentoring with you, I kind of help you come up with the specifics of your approach. That's kind of the refinement of it. So not only do we have a refinement of the approach that I can help you with specifically, but it's also per person. It's helping you develop it from your language, because the way I'm speaking it now is my style. Each person has a unique style. As long as you understand the methodology of it and why we're doing it and what we're hoping to get out of it in terms of the framework around it, of how it looks, in other words, how it sounds when it comes out, we've got to make that your own so you're comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable with it, you're never going to ask, because you're going to be too nervous. However, once you get comfortable with that ask, you're going to be asking a lot more. And then it's only a matter of time. See, the great part is then it's only a matter of time, because you're seeding the grass, so to speak. I love that metaphor. It's like you're throwing seed into the grass, and not all of it's going to come up. And sometimes you're going to have patches where it's just it's dead and people aren't going to be calling you back. But that's where the persistence and the consistency of it comes in, which is vital of that. So that's the first half. And I tried to give you some specifics, I couldn't do it for you, obviously, but general specifics on how we can start getting that ask out there in terms of approaching people. And you'd be surprised, go back to when this recording's out and start jotting some of that stuff down, and then start kind of mixing it into your own language, so to speak. And that's, you'd be surprised at what results you can get, right? So that's the networking event side. So once you start getting more events and you start speaking to more people, then there's going to be the side of clients. That's where the actual approach is. And so if you're not getting any events, now we know why, because you're not asking for any, right? If you're having events, or once you're having events, if you're not getting any clients from it, the reason why is because you're not asking, right? And how we ask here is, this is what I would call a needs-based approach, meaning I'm approaching someone, I'm asking them if they'd ever consider hiring me as their coach, or if they'd ever consider how I could help them with what they're going for if they were to hire me as their coach. Or a different ask, I'm asking if you'd ever consider taking a closer look at how I could help you with what you're going through if you were to hire me as your coach, right? So it's the same ask, but padded and framed a little bit differently each time. But I'm not going to ask that until I understand the needs that they have. Do they have a need that they're in their life, which everyone has a need, right? But do they have a need that's big enough that they want enough? Not only do they have that need that they're going for, but the timing of it. What's the urgency of it? And why do you want to do something about that need right now? What makes today different from any other day that you've been wanting this? Whether you've been wanting this for a day, a month, a week, or a decade, doesn't matter. What makes today different? And when we find out that they've got a strong need and the timing is now, it's our duty, it's our obligation, right, to ask, geez, with that being said, and you wanting to go after X so badly, and it sounds like the timing couldn't be better for you to go after that. And correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like, you might be looking for some help. Is that correct? Yeah. Based on that, I can't help but ask if you'd ever consider taking a closer look at how I could help you if you were to hire me as your coach. And I almost feel compelled to ask because of what you told me. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the approach and asking for business. Because no one, even if they know about, oh, you're a coach and you help people like this, what I found is, this is from experience, this is in theory, this is from experience, is people might listen to you and they might listen to you talk about your coaching and, oh, this is who I help people and I'm non-judgmental and I'm objective and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe they hear you at an event and they like what you're doing. Virtually everybody, and I'll just say 100% of everybody, because it's never, but for the sake of conversation, let's say no one will ever just come up to you and say, I want to hire you as my coach. They're going to sit there and they're going to think about it and they're going to wonder what it would be like. And do you know why? Because they don't ask. People are afraid to ask. Why? We can go into the psychology of it, the therapy of it, because I'm asked my mom and my dad and I always said no. Therefore, I learned never to ask, right? Or I always have to ask. And, when I was younger growing up and I was always turned down or nothing ever worked out for me. Or when I did ask, I never got what I wanted and blah, blah, blah. So I don't ask now. Who cares why people don't ask? Therefore, it's reciprocal, meaning they're most likely, and for the sake of conversation, never going to ask you, hey, tell me about your coaching. What would it be like to coach with you? How much does it cost? Does it happen? Yes. Rarely? Yes. Feel those questions? Yes. Point is, don't expect it to happen. Therefore, if we don't ever ask and they don't ever ask, nothing ever gets accomplished and we're out of business, right? And then we're just sitting behind the screen hoping we get clients. So now we've got to ask for speaking engagements. We've got to kick ass when we speak, and we've got to deliver some great value. And the only way we're going to do that is by doing it on a regular basis. And if you suck in the beginning, that's okay. You're supposed to suck. It's the beginning. You're starting off. You don't just hand someone a tennis racket and tennis ball and just, well, look at how great I am. No, you're going to suck in the beginning if you've never played before. So suck and suck less every single time until you get great. And I don't care if it takes you 1, 2, 5 events or 5 years. That's your process. Get better at what you do. Work on your craft. And then we've got to get to that point where people are interacting with us. They're asking us questions, or guess what? They're not asking us questions. Like I said, we're asking them questions. Tell me a little bit more. What was your motivation for coming here today? What's going on? Or someone comes up to you and says, oh my God, that was great. I loved your talk. Great. What are you going through in your world right now where this information resonated with you? Oh, I'm struggling with X, or this is going on, and blah, blah, blah. Tell me a little bit more about that. Wow, it sounds like you're really challenged with this. I'm curious, what are you looking to do about that? Is this something, obviously you came to this event, or obviously you're listening to this piece of content, whatever, maybe it's a virtual conversation. It seems like you might be looking to do something about it. Is that correct? Why now? Why is now the right time for you to start doing this? Based on what you just told me, I can't help but ask if you'd ever consider taking a closer look at how I can help you if you were to hire me as your coach. And there's an ask, right? So it can develop. And you've got to be aware of and digging up these questions and finding out that need and the timing. And the greatest part about this all is that we're coaches. What do we do as coaches? We ask questions. We're curious, right? We're insightful. We clarify, right? We validate. And then we drive people forward. And that's what we do. We're objective. We're not judgmental. So what I'm talking about right there is the coaching skill set. Everything else I've been talking about today in terms of asking with clientele from potential leads to get clients, or prior to that to get speaking engagements, is selling. The greatest part about this, which ideally makes it easy once you understand it and you work on your craft, is that this right here is selling. This right here is coaching. They're actually the same. They're the same. The only difference is as a coach, you don't have an agenda, meaning the agenda is the client's agenda. What are you looking for? What does that look like? How long have you been wanting this for? Let's talk about this. Let's get some clarity around it. What's your first step? Blah, 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 right? That's what coaching is, and we don't have an agenda. But with selling, the only difference between the two is that our only agenda is to find out need and timing. which essentially is coaching. And the only step there is if those two things check out, then we're going to ask, or we're going to make that approach to ask if they'd ever consider taking a closer look at how we could help them if they hire us as their coach. That's what asking is. Asking is not being afraid of the no, not being afraid of what won't happen, but what could happen, not being afraid of it, but shifting your mindset to think about, well, what could happen if I ask? And the reason I shared at the opening of this about that client, he sent me that audio, and how all of a sudden, I was listening to him and I'm like, it sounds like you're getting out there and you're on LinkedIn and you're on Facebook and you're, going to all these networking meetings and spending hours and hours. And it sounds like you're making good connections. And now you've got more connections on LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, in there, it's not sounding like you're really directly asking for something, whether you're asking for business or you're asking for seminars or connections. You're not directly asking. And next thing you know, he leaves that conversation. Of course, we get specific with him on certain situations and certain people and crafting that approach for him specifically. But he asked, and next thing you know, a week later, he's got 3 potential speaking engagements that he's lining up with, and he got a $5,000 client out of it. Like, that's what can happen. Now, I've been working with him for 2+ years, and he's wound up and his business is going, and you know what I mean? So he's secure and he's doing a lot of different things there. So don't expect like you're just gonna all of a sudden go out your first day and get a $5,000 client and 3 speaking engagements. But with that being said, you actually could, right? You actually could, because you're getting out there and you're starting to ask. If you have any questions, be certain to reach out to me. And of course, if you need any specific help with any of this stuff, I'm always available for one-on-one mentor coaching. So please let me know if that's an interest of yours. Just go to sellingcoaching.com under the Work With Me page, fill out the form at the bottom, and I will reach out with you directly. I will actually call you and we can have a brief conversation and we can kind of see where we go from there.